idea, a complex yield calculator, monthly, daily investment, compound duration, etc. Yeah, that's actually a really fun one to build. And that's something that AI should be able to knock out of the park. Yeah, because I actually it's actually a pretty good idea, because I know a lot of people have asked for compound interest calculators, and I know a lot of guys use different online tools, but a lot of them are not like specifically geared towards crypto, or like they're probably like denominated in like US dollars, which you can still make it work. But yeah, it'd be pretty fun to have something that was kind of made specifically for crypto. So let's I'm going to show you guys like the steps I would take to like basically start a new project. So let's just so this time this is going to be strictly a front end. It's not going to have like associated contracts. So basically what I'm going to do is, instead of doing scaffold ETH2, which I did for this project here, where we had like the mono repo with hard hat and Next.js, I'm just going to go straight for a Next.js project. So easy way to do that, Next.js, you can just basically go here and you can see this basically gives you the command that you would type to create a new Next.js project. So basically I just copied that. So now that we're in our new terminal here, so right now I'm in the directory of our voting project. So I want to get out of here. So I'm just going to back up a directory. So now I'm in our building live directory, which is where we're going to be building all of our stuff on stream. So I'm just going to paste in that Next.js command, but I'm going to put another word after it, which is the name of this project. So we'll call it compound calculator. So now it wants to install something. That's fine. Would you like to use TypeScript? Yes. Basically, all the defaults are fine for this for the most part. Take a look at our project that we were starting up. So success, create a compound calculator at blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's get in there. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to open up, so there's a couple different ways. What I want to do is I want to get this new project into my editor right here. So there's a couple different ways to do that, but the way that I typically like to do it is, so I'm using cursor. You could be using VS Code, or you could be using anything. But if I just go cursor space and then a dot, it's basically saying like, open up cursor and tell cursor to open up at the current directory that I'm at right now. Hopefully you guys can see that. So let's go ahead and do that. So it just opened up another cursor window. And now if we look at where we're at in this cursor, you can see we're at the compound calculator. And this is all of our files related to the compound calculator. So I guess we can get rid of we can stop our dev server. So we were running the dev server on our first project, so I just stopped that with Control-C. And we got Claude running up here. Let's just get out of that. And let's just close this out. And now we got cursor opened up with our compound calculator. So this will be fun. This will be, we're basically building something like right from scratch here. So okay, so one thing one sec. So I just started up Claude, which we're going to use for our AI like we were in the last project. And so one thing that I noticed is there's a couple different ways to deal with like package management when you're dealing with like JavaScript and TypeScript projects. So I typically use Yarn. You'll notice like I was using like a bunch of Yarn commands in the last project, like yarn start, yarn install, a bunch of stuff like that. Just looking at the files here, I can just tell that this is using like the default package manager, which is called NPM, which some of you guys might be familiar with. But I typically want to use Yarn, so I'm just going to actually tell it to switch over before we do anything else. So I'm just going to, this is really not important to do. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that just because people wouldn't normally know to do that. So let's just go with the flow. We'll just keep it how it is. But what I will do is I'm going to move Claude up here, and I'm going to, so usually I would go yarn start here or yarn dev, but basically it's using NPM. So, well, whatever. I'll use Yarn. It's complaining that package lock.json was found, which basically means like we're using the other tool, not Yarn, which I mean, it's fine. It's basically by just running Yarn, it's going to install the packages to make this project work. But the packages are actually already installed because it did that when I basically ran this command over here that I copied in. But it did it with the other package manager. So basically to do it with this is really an unnecessary step, but I'm just going to show you guys. So once this is done, we're gonna have a yarn.lock file in here. There it goes, yarn.lock. So I mean, now we can just continue on. It's gonna complain every time we run yarn that unless we delete this file here, but whatever, it's fine. I'll just leave it there. It's not gonna hurt anything. So what we're gonna want to do now is, so I want to start the dev server just to show you guys like what this looks like before we do like anything at all to it. So so I guess I know the command to type, but I'm just gonna actually. So it's just a funny thing because like I don't want AI to run my dev server because I just want to have that always running in the background. But like a regular user probably wouldn't know how to start the dev server if this is their first time programming. So maybe I'll just show you guys. So because everything that we're doing is pretty much going to be like JavaScript, TypeScript for the most part. So like you're going to want to get familiar with this file package.json. This is basically like the master plan of your project kind of, right? So it has like the name of your project, the version, which is not too important, but it keeps track of like what your dependencies are. So like if we need to like make this work with Web3, we're going to end up installing a bunch of packages that basically make it really easy to build in the ability to like connect your wallet or whatever else that we're going to want to do. So that will add things to the dependencies here. You never really have to, you don't typically have to modify this stuff yourself. There's other ways like, so for example, if we were installing something called like XYZ, we would just go like, yarn add XYZ, or whatever. And that would actually add it to this file automatically for us. But the part that I wanted to show you here is the scripts. So what this is going to let us do is these are our available scripts. So this is how you would know like what you're able to run with this project. So I could go like yarn dev, yarn build, yarn start, or yarn lint. Now, a little bit confusing, but in our last project, the command was actually yarn start to start the dev server, which we do have available here, but we have a yarn dev command or like a dev script, which is actually what we want in this case with like a default Next.js project. And just to show you guys, yarn start's not going to work because so the start command here is meant for starting a production project, right? So if we were to basically for start to work, we'd have to run build first. So if we ran yarn build and then yarn start, it would work, but it would work in like a way that's meant for production. And just, I guess I could explain this real quick. The difference between like a development environment and a production environment is they have very different focuses, and it greatly changes the way that like the system is managing running the project. In production, you don't need any kind of debugging information. You want everything to be ultra fast, which means like anything that it can compile or optimize in advance, it's going to do that to make sure that when visitors visit the site, it's going to be as quick and snappy as possible. But in the development environment, we don't care at all about that. But what we care about in the development environment is when we make a change, we want to see that change reflect immediately. So that's basically what we get access to with dev. And we don't need to build anything because basically the dev server is going to like build everything on demand as we access the pages, if that makes sense. So just to show you guys, yarn start is going to fail here, but I'll just run it just to show you guys. Oh, so it actually looked like it started there for a second, but like right away it broke. So that doesn't work. Let's run yarn dev and you'll see that this should work. So again, it's still complaining about that same thing about that file that I didn't delete that I was supposed to delete, but that's fine. So now you can see we've got our dev server running and it says it's ready. So let's go ahead and open that up. We can close that out now. We can close that out, that, and that. So there we go. We have our default. This is like what you get if you just start a brand new Next.js project. It's got nothing in there. It's just basically telling you how to get started. So let's plan this out. So let's go back to Claude, and I guess first, like, do you guys want to discuss like? So we're going to make a compound yield calculator. So if you guys have any like specific feature requests or any improvements that you think or any ideas on how that should look or work, definitely pop that into the chat. But I'll get started with a basic prompt here. So I'm just going to start by telling it what we have right now, because right now the AI doesn't know anything. Like it has the ability to kind of look at our code base, but it doesn't have any background of what are we trying to do or like what what's going on basically. So I'm going to say right here we have a fresh installed Next.js project with nothing changed yet. We will build a compound interest calculator so that cryptocurrency, so that people can calculate their compound earnings on their cryptocurrencies for any project which has compound interest. So that already would probably give it a great start. But let's just get into a bit more detail here. So let's say the user should be able to input their current or starting balance and then be able to select how often compounds occur. And I'll say this should be a text input or a numeric input. To allow any frequency. So the user should be able to easily input if compounds occur every hour, every 10 or every hour, every 5 hours, every day, every 3 days, etc. Any frequency. Okay. What other requirements do we have? How should we show the output? Should we get it to just show us? So basically the two things that I'm thinking of right now is, do we want it to show like a whole long chart of this is how much it's going to be in 15 days and 30 days and 3 months and 6 months and a year? Or do we want it actually ask the user over what duration of time? I guess let's start with asking the user. Also, the user should be able to input over. Well, actually, I forgot the most important part. The user needs to be able to input how much growth gains they are receiving per each compound as a percentage. Also, the user should be able to input over what period of time they want to see the results for. Okay, I think this is pretty good. Let's give it an example just to make it super straightforward. So in total, a user should be able to supply X number of tokens compounding over, Y frequency. I'm just putting in random things. And see how many tokens they will have after Z period of time. Actually, sorry, I submitted that by accident. I actually just want to make a little edit to the end there. Oops. Design a beautiful modern UI to allow the user to input everything and display the results cleanly. Is that bad? So that was a pretty thorough prompt. So I think that we probably should one-shot this. We should have like a pretty nice compound interest calculator by the time we're done, or by the time this prompt's done. Let's actually just read what it's doing. Will help you build a compound interest calculator for cryptocurrencies with a beautiful modern UI. Let me start by creating a to-do list to track this project. Perfect. I can see we have a fresh Next.js 15 project with TypeScript and Tailwind CSS already set up. The project structure looks clean and ready for development. Let me just tell it to go ahead and make edits without asking me. Oh, it's already almost done. Now let me design the compound interest calculation logic. Formula for compound interest is, okay, principal, rate, frequency. All right, it looks pretty good. All right. Starting balance. So let's say 200. How many times it compounds per oh, that's not good. So compound frequency per hours. This is like meant for like something that compounds like crazy. Like we don't want to put how many times it compounds per hour. We want to put let's before I even test it, I want to fix that. For compound frequency, we need to easily support common compound frequencies. Typically, it will be stuff like every day or every couple of hours. It will rarely be compounding multiple times per hour. We should use a similar method that was used for the time period to let users enter X number of days. So it compounds every 1 day, every 7 days, etc. Or have hours in the dropdown. So users could select that something compounds every 4 hours or 6 or any number. Let's see how that works. So it says I'll update the compound frequency input to use a similar approach as the time period with the numeric input and a drop down for the time units. This will make it much more intuitive for users to specify common frequencies like every 1 day or every 4 hours. So that should be perfect. So it didn't quite one-shot this for us, but after it makes this change, let's see if it works. So we'll see if because we have an accurate calculator on Blue BNB. So we'll see if it equals out the same. So we know that 100 tokens over 30 days is going to gain 67. So let's see if we get that same conclusion. So 100 tokens compounds every 4 hours, 0.286? 286. And we want to do it over 30 days. Look at that, guys. Bang. Works like a charm. That's pretty cool. And that's how, I mean, that's truly how easy it is. Like I've seen so many guys ask about compound calculators, and this is like one that like fits the bill perfectly. It, basically it's fully flexible. You can have compounds happening as often as you want. So, compound every day. So you guys can see, well, actually, I guess if we're doing, so you guys can actually see that if we take 1.71%, which is like roughly what Blue is every day worth of gains, you can see it doesn't make a huge difference to compound once a day versus compounding, every 4 hours. I mean, I'm sure over over a longer period of time, it'll start to have a bigger impact. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's deploy this so you guys can play with it. So again, I'm just going to do that. So, and again, right now we're using a default like Next.js like install. So this is like exactly what you'd get if you just set up like a brand new from scratch Next.js project. So because of that, it doesn't have like some of the stuff built in that our previous project had. So for this, I'm just going to, there's a couple different ways to do this, but I just like to do it a really simple way. I'm just going to go MPX Vercel. Actually, you know what? Let's use AI for everything. Add a new command to our, add a new script command to our project to be able to deploy to Vercel. So this is going to be one thing I struggle with a little bit, is like I'm so used to like typing specific commands for certain things, but like I want to really take this from the approach of like, if this is my first time, if I didn't know what I was doing, you know, what would I do? So this actually gave me basically the same result as what I was just going to type, but so perfect. I've added a deploy script to your package.json. Now you can deploy to Vercel using this. This command will deploy your compound calculator directly to production on Vercel. Make sure you have the Vercel CLI installed globally first. I don't know if I do, so let's just do that. The deploy script uses Vercel -- prod, which will deploy directly to your production environment, which is exactly what I want. So, and again, I'm not typing anything special in, I'm just going to literally copy exactly what it told me to use. So now I can just use all the defaults here. Hope you guys can see that. So it's asking me set up and deploy this, and I'm just going to press enter for the default. It's going to ask me which project scope. So I have like my own projects, my personal stuff, and I have like 2 organizations that I'm part of on Vercel. So I'll just go to my own, link to an existing project. No. So I'm just going to press enter again. What's your project name? Compound calculator. That's good. In which directory? I'm just going to use the default. And now we're good to go. Oh yeah. So I'm just going to press enter that I don't want to modify. So one thing that we messed up, or that I messed up a little bit with the last project is, you know, I really should be trying to build this locally, because like to deploy this to Vercel, it's going to run the build in the Vercel environment. But there's really no reason for me to do that until I know that my project builds properly. I mean, this is such a simple project. I doubt it's going to have any issues, but I mean, we can try it just for fun locally while that's going. So I'm just going to go yarn build. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell AI to do it, because this is something that doesn't require any interactive anything. So like, it's a really good thing for AI to do. So I'm just going to say, before I deploy, even though I already started it, it doesn't know that. Before I deploy to Vercel, can you make sure our build works properly? Oh yeah. So because it's doing the build, so it actually, I think it found a problem. I'm going to actually stop the dev server. Oh, and it did deploy to production. So whatever errors that it found were probably minor, or also this, there's different settings about like how strict the build process is. So it seems that this one's letting the build complete, even if there's like minor type issues, which is fine. Our other one, it wouldn't build it with type issues. That's why the build failed, or like that's why the deployment failed the first time with our voting project that we worked on last stream. For anyone that remembers that. Oh, actually, I don't know. Why is that giving us an error? Okay, so it's because I did the build, it kind of broke our dev server. So I just had I'll stop that and start it again. Yarn dev. Let's just actually make sure this is still working. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so let's take a look at our deployment here. Compound calculator. So here's my Vercel account. So here's what we just deployed. So yeah, I'm just going to paste this into the chat for you guys to check out. So I mean, that was a pretty simple thing to build. But I think it was another great example of just like, you know, whenever you have an idea, it's literally just, typically it's as, you know, you just need to know where to start, like what a good starting point is. And there's a lot of different starting points we could have done with this. Like, we didn't need to use Next.js. We could have used just straight React, which is like, I don't know if I should get into explaining all the differences there, but I mean, we could just use like a vanilla JavaScript and, project. There's a lot of different ways that this could be done, but I think for people that are new, it's probably good to use a framework like Next.js or like React. And, AI is super familiar with how to interact with that. And it makes it like super easy to deploy it. You have a lot of the stuff that you would need is already kind of built into it. So I think like when working, like if you were learning to program JavaScript, this is not really what I would suggest you to like jump straight into. But if you're using AI just to like get to the finish line, I think this is like a great starting point, would be something like a Next.js starter project, and just have AI to build on top of that. Or like if you're doing crypto stuff, again, that one that I showed you guys last time is super good. Scaffold ETH too. So yeah, this is what we used last time to build the voting project. And you would just, start a new project with this just by copying this and pasting that into your terminal. So now we're on the production URL. So you guys will notice like I'm refreshing this and like it instantly loads, because like, again, like when you deploy things to production, it's optimized and it's like, everything's pre-built, and you get a really great user experience. But like you wouldn't want to develop on the production build. That's why like we develop with the development server and then we deploy to production, and they're quite different builds, but generally quite, they should work the same. All right, guys. Well, I think we've only been streaming for a little over an hour today, but it is Friday, and we did get some debugging done, and we got a really simple, but we did get another project from start to fully deployed. If you guys want to check out what we just built, that's the address right there. Hit that like button, 100%. Let's get this out there.